So we've made it out of the abandoned warehouse and we're finally getting back into an arena, and not just any arena, the O2 Arena in London, England, for what is going to be a pretty solid card top to bottom in Edwards versus Brady. I'm personally really looking forward to this card. I feel like this card really is for the fan base in England or the fan base in Europe overall, because I feel like this is just a really good overall showcase of some of the best prospects and some of the best prospects from England and Europe, just all put on one card. Now, of course, there are some notable names missing, but I feel like overall for a fight night event, this is very good, and it's a 13 fight long fight night event, a very appropriate length for an event that is not going to be in an abandoned warehouse. I'm looking forward to this one. Last week I did a reaction, a recap, I should say, and I'll be honest, the picks are just not there this year. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm using the exact same pick strategy that I've used for 3 years now, since 2021, mid 2021. I've been making these prediction videos, and I'm just getting cooked, man. I'm off to a very slow start, but you know who is not off to a slow start? I do have to shout out Bet Sam. Bet Sam is absolutely killing it at the moment. He's another YouTuber from New Zealand, and he's also part of the We Want Picks team as well. I've been tailing his bets quite a bit, and if you do sign up to the We Want Picks website, you sign up using my code ARTEM, you get 10% off your first month, and you also get access to all of Bet Sam's bets, Angelo's bets, Jacob's bets, who's also on a roll right now. That lock of the week's going crazy. And my articles as well. I went 8-0 on the 8 fights that I decided to do my write-up on Cage Warriors 185, and there's another Cage Warriors card on Cage Warriors 186 this weekend. And considering just the fact that it's on Friday night and this is on Saturday night, the UFC brass is going to be at Cage Warriors 186, and they might sign a couple of guys from that card. So let's also talk about a couple of things as well. This card, overall, I'm not very confident in it, and I'm going to bring back the poster review. Now, I started getting cooked when I was doing the poster review, and then I stopped doing the poster review, and the picks didn't really improve, so we're going to talk about it anyway. If Angelo's allowed a 26-minute long intro, I'm allowed a 3-minute long intro, alright? This poster, very good poster. Personal opinion though, I think it's just like, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. Like, there are some pretty big landmarks in London, you know. I'm pretty sure they've got that castle. I forgot the name of it. I had it in my head and I forgot it. They've got the big castle, which is like the Citadel of London or whatever. And then they've got the Big Ben and the bridge, the Big Ben Bridge. They don't have that. It's just modern London, which is like, you know, when I think of London, I think of like old stuff, but I mean, I guess maybe when other people think of London, they don't think of the same thing as me. 3-minute long intro, 26 minutes shorter than Angelo's intro this week. That's not a bad effort. Let's go. Guram Kutateladze. This is not the first fight on the card. I know that the order is probably incorrect, but this is what Topology has. That's what we're rolling with. I'm picking Guram to win the fight, but I don't see why he's a minus 425 favorite, and this is why I don't love the card. Like, there are guys that I have somewhat medium confidence in. It's just like, I could never justify betting on Guram at this spot at a minus 425. Yes, Guram has had some incredible performances in his time in the UFC. He's just not active at all. He kind of come in out of nowhere with that close fight against Gamrot. A lot of people think Gamrot won that fight, and then he fought Demir Ismagulov. A lot of people think that Guram won that fight, and then he lost to Elvis Brenner in what was actually a pretty interesting performance where Elvis was just kind of like really touching him up on the feet and was showing good takedown defense. He just beat Vucenic, who's also on this card. I'll talk about him in a moment, and Vucenic put up a good performance against him too, so maybe Guram potentially isn't as good as we thought he was, or something else is going on with him. He's just always been injured recently. But he should be able to beat Kaue Fernandes here. Kaue Fernandes is a very dynamic striker. He has a lot of good heat kick KOs on the regional scene, and even the UFC has been landing some pretty good shots on the feet. Muhammad Yahya just was never good enough to be in the promotion in the first place. He was really just signed because he's from the UAE. And I think that Kaue Fernandes here, despite showing decent enough takedown defense throughout his career, I don't think he can defend the takedowns of Guram. I don't think that he's as aggressive and high volume as the shooter box guy that Elvis Brenner was. I think Guram is going to get those takedowns. I think he's going to get the win. Minus 420 though. I feel like you're just paying super wide price tags on Guram for like no reason in the big 2025, but I think that Guram does go out there and he still wins. Joe Herbert now fights against Chris Padilla. Chris Padilla, I don't think he's the underdog right now, which is why I do have FightOdds.io still loaded up in the background. And if we do look into it, Chris Padilla is actually plus 115 right now on Bet Online. And I'm finally going to do it, guys. I am going to pick Chris Padilla to win a fight. I am 0-2 fading him. And it's time I learned my lesson here. Now, you know what happens when I do this? It always ends up absolutely kicking me in the behind. But I do think that Chris Padilla has a good skill set to beat Jai Herbert here. Jai Herbert is a pretty big guy for 155. He actually did drop Ilia Topuria, and Ilia Topuria's only fight at 155 until recently, of course, but then he got knocked out himself. And since then, he's kind of just been up and down. But what Jai Herbert does bring to the table is a very high-level kickboxing. The problem is, just kind of ever since he got signed to the UFC, he just really hasn't been able to live up to that potential that he did have when he was in Cage Warriors. Like, he did look a lot better in Cage Warriors than he looks in the UFC. I don't know how else to explain it, but from that, he's a good kickboxer, but there are other ways that you can beat him. And what Chris Padilla brings to the table is good boxing too. I mean, we saw him against Zhu Rong here, Rong Zhu, and in that fight, he was boxing up Rong Zhu in moments, you know, and Rong Zhu was showing very good kickboxing in his return to the road to UFC, and I picked Rong Zhu, of course, to win that fight. And then, like an idiot, I picked James Yontop to defeat Chris Padilla, but that's my fault there on that one. Chris Padilla, he's shown that he can have opportunistic grappling if he needs it. I like his boxing. I like his grappling. And in this matchup against Jai Herbert, I honestly think that he's actually going to need that grappling. But I think he goes out there and I think he does use it. We've seen Jai Herbert get out-wrestled before. I think Chris Padilla, despite having a bit of a height advantage, he still is a pretty big guy for 155. Like, he's kind of like a 5'9" lightweight, but a very wide build on him. Kind of like a Volkanovski at 145, Chris Padilla at 155. You know what I'm talking about. I'm picking Taco. He is the underdog. A lot of people love him. I'm not super high on him, as I have said. I have picked against him in the past. But I think against Jai Herbert, I think what's going to happen here is I think it's just going to be the well-roundedness that takes over, and I'm going to go with Padilla to win by submission. Lorna Kavanagh takes on Felipe dos Santos. This is insane. These odds just do not make sense at all, and I'll tell you why. I love Lorna Kavanagh. I know people that know Lorna Kavanagh, and they all say very good things about him, and I don't think anyone has said something bad about Lorna Kavanagh, just like in general ever. And he is a very young prospect that a lot of people are very high on. This, though, is not a matchup I think he should be minus 400, and in fact, I'm very surprised that he is minus 400 right now. I think if you go in to look at a very big underdog, Felipe dos Santos could be an option. But I'm still going to pick Lorna Kavanagh, and here's why. The reason why I like Kavanagh in this matchup, as well as don't like him in this matchup, is because he just fought genuinely the exact same fighter in his UFC debut against Jose Ochoa. Jose Ochoa is a shooter box Diego Lima guy. Felipe dos Santos is a shooter box Diego Lima guy. And I'll tell you this, they fight the exact same way, except there is a little bit of a difference. I think Felipe dos Santos is a lot more reckless. I think Felipe dos Santos throws less leg kicks than Ochoa does, but he shoots a very much more takedowns than Jose Ochoa does. So I think in this matchup, you're going to see that exact same matchup between Kavanagh and Ochoa, where Kavanagh did take over towards the end, but Ochoa, you can't deny that Ochoa had his own moments in that matchup, especially in the grappling and early on in that first rounds. But I think that in this one here, Felipe dos Santos is going to start strong. He's going to have a massive size advantage in this fight. Felipe dos Santos, one of the biggest guys at 125 pounds that you will see. But I think ultimately, despite me absolutely loving Felipe, I think this guy is in like some of the best fights ever. He's so fun to watch. His cardio does slow down a little bit, and he just genuinely doesn't have great striking defense at all. And what does Lorna Kavanagh bring to the table? Very high-level boxing with good eyes in the pocket. Now, I think that Lorna Kavanagh is kind of like a Kevin Verhos kind of guy at 125 pounds. He's a smaller guy for the weight class, but he's fast, kind of like Josh Van, and he does throw good combinations in close. I like Kavanagh in this matchup. I do think that you can just directly relate this fight to the previous matchup against Ochoa. But I think for that reason, you can't justify the minus 400 price tag on him, and I'm not as confident in Lana Kavanagh as I think a lot of other people are going to be in this card and other predictions, of course. Caolan Loughran now fights against Nathan Fletcher. I quite liked Caolan Loughran, I'll be honest. I was actually quite excited about him coming into the UFC because he's got a very loud personality. He likes to call out a lot of people. He talks a lot on Twitter. But I have to say, the performances just really haven't backed up the talk right now. He looked really good in Cage Warriors, was undefeated in Cage Warriors, come in on short notice against Lapalus. Now, I know he had a full fight camp for a different opponent, but he still fought Lapalus on short notice, and Lapalus, despite being released from the UFC, Lapalus is no bum. Lapalus is a very solid fighter, and hopefully he can get picked up by the UFC again. Now, apparently that's the rumor, as he's just negotiating a better contract, but who knows? Lapalus is good. Caolan Loughran genuinely gave him a tough fight in there by shooting the takedowns, by pressuring, but Lapalus just did enough damage to get through. And then he went out there and he fought old mate Angel Pacheco, who was coming off that loss on the Contender Series. Not the greatest performance, I thought, against Pacheco. And then Hadley, on short notice upper weight class, went out there and beat him. And now he's going to be fighting Nathan Fletcher, who's coming down to 135 pounds from the Ultimate Fighter season. And I think that we're going to see Fletcher find success here against Loughran. Nathan Fletcher just fought a much more dangerous striker. Zigomantas Ramaska was his name on that Ultimate Fighter episode finale, and he won it with that arm triangle choke. I think in this one here, their grappling is probably going to cancel out, and it could be a striking matchup. And I think out of the two, I like Fletcher's striking more, man. I just kind of, from what I've seen from Loughran, is although he's a very big pressure forward bantamweight, the performance against Jake Hadley was really disappointing. Like, it just was. And I don't really know how else to word it. I think that Loughran, has the potential, but I think that he's taking on a tough guy making his debut right now. I'm going to have to side with Nathan Fletcher in this matchup, and I think that Fletcher wins a decision against a tough Loughran. Now we move up to Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. I'm picking the underdog here in Mick Parkin. Now, you could say, Tybura just wins because he's fighting another prospect, and that is what Tybura is doing recently. He's just kind of killing all of the prospects. 2022 was kind of the first big example of this happening. Defeated Alexander Romanov when he was 16-0. Blagoy Ivanov is a 56-year-old man. Tai Tuivasa was kind of on the come up. I mean, this was kind of the peak Tuivasa time, I guess, before he really fell off. And then he just fraud checked Janata Denise, and like, this is kind of a sad situation because Denise dropped him and then just didn't follow it up. Mick Parkin, though, he's a good overall heavyweight, and I'll be honest, I was very low on him, and here's why. The level of competition that this guy fought throughout his career is unbelievable. Throughout his amateurs, he was even fighting some not too great guys. Coming as a pro, never fought anyone with a winning record until he beat Eduardo Neves, and since then he's been going up and fighting better competition in the UFC, and I think he's actually looked pretty good doing it. And I think against Tybura, it's actually a good matchup for Parkin. Oh, it's just so tough because Tybura is so experienced. Like I was gonna say, like, Tybura hasn't fought someone like Parkin. That's just not true. What Parkin brings to the table is a good boxer, a Tom Aspinall training partner, by the way. That, like, it wasn't even that long that Tybura fought Aspinall. Where is it? Like, a year and 7 months ago. Like, this is such a big step up in competition for Parkin, but I have to justify it because Parkin is a relatively high level boxer, very high volume guy for the weight class. And I think he has the takedown defense to deal with Tybura. And from what we've seen, Mick Parkin, like, might be able to do some algebra. Like, he might not make the dumbest decisions, like, in the octagon of all time, like Janata Denise was doing against Tybura. I don't know. I feel like maybe this is a bad play by fading Marcin Tybura, a guy that has proven to be able to turn away prospects in the past. But, I mean, like, dude, Unk status can only get you so far. I mean, he's turning 40 pretty soon. I think that Mick Parkin, like, genuinely, Mick Parkin has shown that he is a pretty good prospect. And although this is a massive step up in competition, I've got to side with it. I'm going to go with the underdog in Mick Parkin here. Hopefully that doesn't really come back to bite me, because that would be a bit sad. Now, Andrey Pulyaev fights against Christian Leroy Duncan. When this fight was made, I thought, oh, like, this is going to be potentially a good opportunity to pick and maybe even bet on Christian Leroy Duncan at close odds. The odds makers know what they're doing with this one. They are just not giving you any value whatsoever on Christian Leroy Duncan. And although I do think that he wins, and I am pretty confident that he wins, minus 550 ain't gonna do it, man. Like, there's just no value on this fight at all. It's middleweight. I would even say it's low-level middleweight, and I just I just don't love the fight to put money on at all, because I mean it's probably a Christian Leroy Duncan decision, and here's why. Andrey Pulyaev, just a very disappointing fighter, and Liam Anderson did very well to somehow manage to lose to him. I genuinely don't know how we did it, but it was quite impressive. Pulyaev, no cardio, no striking defense, literally a height merchant. Like, he just doesn't defend punches. He just like leans backwards. I just cannot explain Pulyev's style except from just saying that he just fights from range. That's literally all he does. Christian Leroy Duncan kind of does the same thing, but I think at a higher level. And Christian Leroy Duncan though, like, this guy, like, he tossed away a win over Armin Petrosian, who's not in the UFC anymore. Like, he threw it in the bin by trying to get like spinning attacks going and stuff. Like, you just cannot trust either of these guys. Do not bet on this fight. I'm picking Christian Leroy Duncan. I cannot emphasize it enough. Just stay away, as far away from this fight as you possibly can. And now we can move up to women's strawweights, and this is, I'll be honest with you guys, pretty bluntly, pretty low-level women's strawweights. I mean, Puja Tomar, did she beat Ryan Amanda? Probably not, but she got given the decision anyway. And then Shauna Bannon, close fight against Alice Ardelene, and honestly, pretty sad performance against Bruna Brazil. Shauna Bannon is a WAKO, like WAKO, WAKO kickboxing world champion. And she actually is a good striker. She just doesn't throw volume whatsoever, and I don't like seeing it. Whereas the thing about Puja Tomar is, yes, she quite literally doesn't really have any technique at all. One thing you can't deny about Puja Tomar is that she will be the more aggressive fighter in this one. She's going to throw more volume. She's going to be pressuring forward. Is it going to look good? Probably not. I mean, we're really going to have the classic Juliana Pena boxing experience going on in this one. But one thing I can guarantee about the two is Puja Tomar is going to be the one throwing more volume. And, like, I just cannot watch Shauna Bannon get completely outclassed by Bruna Brazil and make no adjustments throughout the entire fight, and then see her fight against Alice Ardelene, who is, like 43 years old or something, and just hasn't beaten like anyone good. She's 32. Anyway, like what are we doing here, man? Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna pick Puja Tomar to win this fight as the underdog. Now, this could be a situation where Tomar might land more volume and they give it to Shauna Bannon because the fight's in the UK. But I just genuinely, the way that I see this fight is it's going to be a striking matchup no matter what. And Puja Tomar is going to throw more volume. Will she land more than 20% of her strikes? Only time will tell. Once again, I mean, just take the over if there's any value on it all. I'm going to side with Puja Tomar genuinely because of that volume discrepancy that we're going to see out of the two. And now Molly McCann fights against Alexia Tainara. Alexia Tainara, of course, now coming in on short notice, but I think that you have to go with Tainara. And I'm not even kidding. I was genuinely considering picking Estela Nunes as what I was going to assume would have been a pretty like large underdog against Molly McCann. The odds, yeah, she would have been plus 250 because Estela Nunes, is she a bit terrible? Yes, but Molly McCann also lost to, where is it? No, not Hannah Goldie. Where was it? She lost to like someone that was like worse than Estela Nunes recently. Stoliarenko, Brazil. She lost to Bruna Brazil. That's it. That's the fight I was thinking of. Anyway, Alexia Tainara fought on the Contender Series, and you really need to hear me out on this one here. Tainara is a very good kickboxer. On the Contender Series, she fought against Rose Concheição, who is a former Brazilian national wrestling champion. Concheição didn't shoot a single takedown in that matchup, and Alexia Tainara went 3 for 3 on offensive takedowns in this. We've seen that Tainara can grapple, but the more impressive part about Tainara, in my opinion, is her striking ability. I think in this matchup, out of the two, Tainara is going to be the better striker, and I don't believe that Molly McCann is going to be able to take her down either. Molly McCann, just, like, I've genuinely been, like, kind of surprised by the run that she went on, because like, she went on that, like, massive KO streak against Luana Carolina, which was huge, Hannah Goldie, which was huge, and then they sacrificed her to build up Erin Blanchfield. I mean, that's understandable. I know why the UFC did that, but Then she like got given like a free gift, and she just fluffed it by putting herself in the armbar against Julia Stolarenko. Like, you cannot trust McCann these days. And Alexia Tainara genuinely looks like she has good talent, and I've got to pick the talent here. I think that Alexia Tainara can use that reach advantage she's got here as well. I think it's a good matchup for Tainara. Very short notice. I know she's accepted this fight on like 2 weeks notice, a week and a half notice, but she can grapple, she can strike. I think it's all kind of all go for Tainara in this matchup, and everyone's picking Tainara. So yeah, she's like minus 175 right now as I record on Bet Online. I think that line might get wider, but it might not because it is on short notice. Jordan Vucenic now taking on Chris Duncan. I like Vucenic in the fight. He had that good fight against Guram Kutateladze, once again, on short notice. Now, if you go across back throughout his career, there's a couple of performances that do stand out. A win over Paul Hughes, some people will debate that. I think a lot of people will debate that one. A win over Morgan Charriere as well. And then a pretty decisive loss to Paul Hughes. But after that, Cage Warriors knew what they were doing. They let him can crush his way into the UFC. And here he is. And I do think he can defeat Chris Duncan. Now, Chris Duncan, massive guy for 155 pounds. Big power at 155 pounds. However, have been a little bit disappointed about the usage of it. He had a guy in Yanal Ishmouz who had one arm in front of him, and he couldn't finish him. Quite surprising, I'll be honest with you. Yanal Ishmouz broke his arm in the first round. Duncan couldn't capitalize. He got sold with Manuel Torres. That was a banger, like, on paper fight, though. That was cool. And then he beat Blachowicz, and Blachowicz just, like, maybe just might not be as good as anyone thought he was. However, Vucenic is solid. I think that Vucenic can more than just handle his own on the feet, but I think the way that he wins this fight is going to be in the wrestling. We haven't seen Chris Duncan's wrestling truly tested at the UFC level, and I think that against Jordan Vucenic I know is going to go for the takedowns. I think he's going to get the grappling going. You are paying a big price tag at minus 350 on a guy who may as well be making his UFC debut. Let's be honest here, that short notice fight against Guram, it was cool, but, you know, now this is his real first UFC fight. Minus 350, pretty wide, because Chris Duncan, as I said, although I'm not super high on Chris Duncan, I will say a couple of good things about him. Massive for lightweight, and massive power, can get the KOs. He's done it before, but I'm going to have to go with Vucenic, and I think Vucenic does go out there, and I think he finds that submission. Kevin Holland versus Gunnar Nelson. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There is no technical breakdown to this. No technical breakdown at all. I don't trust Kevin Holland. That's it. That's quite literally why I'm picking Gunnar Nelson to win this fight. He should win. Kevin Holland should win this fight. But you know what other fight he should have won? Reina Dorita. He should have beaten Reina Dorita. And he just didn't, you know? Like, he just kind of let himself lose. I don't really know how else to explain it. It's almost like as soon as he gets taken down or the fight gets on the ground, he just doesn't care anymore. Tybura did it to him. Reina Dorita did it to him. Gunnar Nelson is probably going to do it to him. That's the breakdown. I don't know what else to say, because I can talk all day about this fight. However, there's a couple of good things I want to mention. The fight's at 170. Kevin Holland, this fight was announced on Twitter like less than 2 weeks after he lost to Reina Dorita. So he lost to Reina Dorita and thought, you know what, I'm just going to fight again in London. Like, you can't trust him. Like, he just doesn't seem like a guy that just cares. He doesn't care. You cannot trust this guy with your money. Gunnar Nelson, where has he been? Nobody knows where Gunnar Nelson's hiding, because he come out of nowhere after that massive break. Where was it? 2019, 2022, and he beat Sato. Submitted Brian Barberena. Not really the best wins, I'll be honest with you guys. Then he's going to fight again for like the first time in 2 years. What is Gunnar Nelson doing? Like, he's a very good grappler. I believe Gunnar Nelson, like, multiple time European grappling champion. Maybe he's competed at the world level, but I don't know that information just off the top of my head. But Gunnar Nelson's a guy that has won multiple national titles, at least in grappling. He's a good grappler. It seems like Holland just doesn't try against grapplers. I don't know how else to say it. Like Holland should win this fight. He really should. Holland has shown in the past that he can defend takedowns, and he has shown in the past that he is a good striker. He's a better striker than Gunnar Nelson. But if Gunnar Nelson shoots for a takedown, how am I supposed to know if Holland's even going to bother trying to defend it? I just don't think that there's like evidence that kind of shows that Holland gives a shit anymore. I don't know how else to bluntly say it. That's quite literally the breakdown. I don't know what else to say. Aside from that, I just can't pick Holland again. I picked Holland with confidence against Reina de Ritter, and we saw how well that went. That's all I'll say. Nathaniel Wood fights against Morgan Charriere. I was actually on Wood. I thought Nathaniel Wood was going to be a good underdog for this card. And then I watched Morgan Charriere, the last Pirates fight against, by the way, American national kickboxing team member, Sheppy Mariscal, diving for takedowns like Colby Covington on him. And I thought, you know what? If American kickboxing national team respects Morgan Charriere's striking this much, I should too. Because Nathaniel Wood, we just saw him lose to Muhammad Naimov. Now, very controversial decision. I know there were pokes there, there were cage grabs there, you name it. No, Naimov did it. He cheated to win that fight. There is controversy. However, same matchup. Former Taekwondo world champion, Morgan Charriere. Not a former Taekwondo world champion, but a good striker. And I think that this guy, if this fight takes place on the feet, I think Charriere wins. Charriere is a really good fighter. He's got a pretty bad record, but I think when you look at the record, it just kind of attests to the level of competition that he did fight on the regional scene. And a lot of those losses, man, come early in his career, like very early in his career. And then if you go through like other losses, Saladin Panasi, one of the best fighters in the world, a guy that went for a third world title. He had a title at 145 pounds, 155 pounds. This loss was challenging for the 170 pound title as the KSW featherweight and lightweight champion, and he's just gone out there and defended both titles again. I mean, Saladin Panasi, one of the best fighters, maybe like of all time, once it's all said and done. I'm going to be honest and say that. Anyway, after that, Soren Bak fought... Oh no, Soren Bak, what happened to him? I remember. Fought in the UFC, did he not? Bellator. Ignore me. I know absolutely nothing. Vucenic and Hughes, good fighters. I think that Morgan Charriere, this is all I'll say. If the American national kickboxing team respects Charriere's striking that much, I should too. Charriere's takedown defense looked pretty good against Sheppy as well. I think that Charriere goes out there, he just defended takedowns against Miranda and smoked him. I don't think he just smokes Wood. Wood's a very good fighter, a guy that you need to take seriously. But I think that Charriere wins this matchup. I'm picking him. He's a favorite. Odds could close. Potentially, Charriere's minus 170 right now. We move up to the co-main event. Jan Blachowicz. It must be like 56 degrees in my room right now. This is madness. Anyway, Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. That's like 250 American units, if you guys wanted to know, in Fahrenheit. Carlos Ulberg's the pick. At this point, Jan Blachowicz is 42 years old. This guy, I mean, he is old enough to be my father. That's the scale that we're using right now. I'm 22 years old. Jan Blachowicz is 42 years old. If he was pretty busy young, he would be my dad. Pretty much is how it works. So Ulberg, 34 years old, pretty old fella himself, however, had a very good kickboxing career. Won the King in the Ring tournament, which is a pretty big tournament. I know it's hosted in New Zealand, but I think it's a worldwide thing right now. Has kickboxing, like... Does he have a kickboxing world title? I know Navajo Sterling has one, but I don't know if Carlos Ulberg has one. But anyway, we see it in his fights. Beat Volkan Oezdemir recently. Knocked out Alonzo Menafield recently in like 10 seconds. It was pretty sick. And then before that, has been beating guys that weren't amazing, but were pretty good. Jan Blachowicz has been injured. He's had surgery on 2 shoulders since this fight against Alex Pereira, where I thought that Pereira did win, but Jan did find some success in the wrestling. I think that's why some people are going to try and pick Jan in this fight, and I can kind of see the angle, because I'm one of the few people on the planet that thought that he actually won that fight against Ankalaev, by the way. I thought Jan won rounds 1, 2, and 3. But, Jan, good wrestler himself. He's a striker. He's got that legendary Polish power, but he's 42. He's 42. We haven't seen him fight for a year and 7 months, this is why I couldn't pick Rafael Fiziev to beat Justin Gaethje. He had been out for about the same amount of time, had surgery, repairing his leg. Now Jan Blachowicz has had 2 years, 2 surgeries over the span of like 18 months. I cannot just see him coming back the same guy that won the title against Dominic Reyes. Oh, no, no, it wasn't Reyes, was it? Oh no. It was. Yes, my knowledge of UFC is not that washed. Anyway, Carlos Ulberg. I think that I mean, at this point, he is the better technical striker. I don't think many people would argue that. And I think if these guys do go strike for strike, I think the guy that is going to land the more volume out of the two is going to be Carlos Ulberg. If Jan goes for his takedowns, I would like to see it, to be honest, as someone that, I mean, if you pick Jan, you want him to wrestle here. And here's another thing as well that I think maybe like might go a little bit unnoticed. Yes, Israel Adesanya lost clearly to Jan Blachowicz in their matchup. City Kickboxing still has at least one training camp worth of data on Jan, and 25 minutes of Israel Adesanya being in there with Jan, who can then replicate what Jan Blachowicz was doing for Ulberg to spar against. If that makes sense. Ulberg can use Israel Adesanya's loss to his own advantage to then beat Jan Blachowicz. So I think that this is a good matchup for Ulberg. I think he wins. And if he beats Jan, I think that Ulberg genuinely puts himself like in title shot conversations. Like if he beats Jan Blachowicz, does he then fight someone like Jamal Hill or Yuri Prochazka for a... No, Jamal Hill lost. Like Yuri Prochazka for a title eliminator, or did they just give Yuri a title shot? I don't know, but I think that anyway, a win for Ulberg is good, and I think that Ulberg goes out there and wins. 30 minutes in. This is a long breakdown. I'm sorry, I must have been yapping quite a lot. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. I'm picking Leon Edwards. This fight is not on at 4 a.m. in the morning UK time or 8 a.m. in the morning UK time. I believe that this topology date is wrong. Last I checked, and I think I will check again. Last I checked, where is it? This card is taking place at normal UK time, which will be good for Leon Edwards. He lives in the UK. This is his time zone. You can tell I'm not that confident in him because, well, I'm going to do it again. Bilal Muhammad is a pretty similar stylistic matchup to Sean Brady. Let's see on my second monitor. What time? It's on at 6 a.m. for me, 9 a.m., 12 p.m. No, that's the press. Okay, the event is expected to finish at about 1 a.m. in the morning in the UK. This is normal time for Leon. I'm yapping. I'm picking Leon, by the way, if you wanted to just end the video here. Sean Brady, he's a good fighter. I will admit I've faded him way too much recently, and I have been paying the price for that. You know, he beat Gilbert Burns. I think I picked Brady to beat Gilbert Burns there. There's no way I was dumb enough to pick Burns then, but I know that I picked Gastelum to beat him. I do apologize for that, but that was after he just got destroyed and embarrassed by Bilal Muhammad there. You got to hear me out here, by the way. I think in this matchup, Leon Edwards is the better striker. You cannot deny that. Leon Edwards against Bilal Muhammad, he got pressured, and with that pressure, he faded. He looked pathetic. He gave up. He didn't throw volume. He let Bilal Muhammad beat him. Bilal Muhammad had moments on the feet because Leon Edwards just gave up, was pressured backwards, let himself lose. And I'm not very happy with Leon Edwards for that. However, Sean Brady, I don't think that he is Bilal Muhammad. Now, here's the thing though. He was actually kind of beating Bilal Muhammad on the feet 2.5 years ago in that first round. And Sean Brady's had a kid. Like, this is a big moment for Brady. He's coming in on short notice as well. It was meant to be Leon Edwards versus Jack Della Maddalena. JDM's getting that title shot. I'm picking JDM. Big underdog against Bilal, by the way. Massive underdog against Bilal. Let's go JDM. But anyway, I'm picking Leon. I think he's the better striker. He has shown against Kamaru Usman that he can defend takedowns. He didn't really show it against Bilal. Oh, I just think that Leon wins the fight, man. I don't really know what else to say. I'm sorry, that's just like probably the worst main event breakdown you're probably going to hear from anybody on the YouTube space. And maybe that's why my picks aren't that good this year. Maybe I am washed, but I am picking Leon Edwards to win this matchup. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be honest, at the moment, I'm not really reading comments. In 2 weeks' time, I have 3 midterm exams on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's going to be insanity. So I'm probably going to take a little bit of a step back from UFC. And also, I'm not really going to be betting too much. I think I'm going to bet on this card. If BetSam cooks, but other than that, I'm not too sure. We'll see you guys. And let's shout out to BetSam. Seriously, shout out to BetSam. It's going crazy.